Okay, here is your recap of the Town of Berwick Planning Board meeting from Thursday, November 6th. The board members were present were Jillian, Rick, Mike, myself, Niles, Terry, code enforcement officer, and James, the town planner. We had no public comments in the first public comment session. The minutes could not be approved from the October 2nd meeting because we did not have a quorum. There was a public hearing for the minor subdivision, which is off Pine Hill Road. So that was basically the creation of one lot. It typically wouldn't even need to come in front of the planning board, except there was an issue about like 35 or 40 years ago in which lots were created, and there was a note that was put forever in that file that if anything else were to be created, it would have to come in front of the board. The only thing that came up from the public hearing was in a butter just wanted to confirm his frontage is created by this private driveway, which we knew. So that was closed. Old business, that same minor subdivision came up. The findings of fact were unanimous. We had already granted 2 waivers, and then the approval was unanimous on that. So that was a nice, easy one. Then we had new business, which is a major subdivision. This is 17 lots that they're trying to create in a cluster development, which is off School Street and Heritage Drive. So just so for clarification, a cluster development is when the applicant could put a certain number of houses in a very large space, but instead they have the opportunity, if allowed by the board for consideration, to put to basically cluster those houses and preserve more open space. So it's more like an open space development, not necessarily a cluster development. I think it's misnamed personally, but whatever. So that major subdivision has already been seen for I forget what they call it because it's a major, it goes through a lot of different steps. So, but we already saw basically their preliminary. We did a site walk with them in April. They've been going back and forth with the DOT about possibly getting an entrance from School Street. They applied for it. It was denied. They went in for like a resubmission of the denial and it was denied again. And then they appealed that denial. They cannot get an entrance off School Street. So they have to go in off of Heritage Drive. Not the best situation, but it is what it is. They were looking for application completedness. There were a lot of questions on this one. And granted, they don't need to answer all of the questions. I don't seem to have all of my questions with me. They don't need to answer all the questions just to get the application complete, but we're trying to give them a little bit of a heads up about what some of the concerns were. They are requesting a variance for the scale of the plan, which is just a very simple variance. It has to do with the size of paper. And the other variance they're requesting is on the street design guidelines. They have we in our land use table say that collector streets cannot exceed 6% slope for lengths of no more than 100 feet, and they have 133 or 135. I'm still unsure about that number that they're requesting a waiver on. So we discussed that. We discussed a lot about the different letters from different state departments on that. We discussed the DOT. We discussed open space. Niles had a few questions about the application because there were some things that were missing from the application. So there was a vote on application completedness. 3 of the members voted in favor of application completedness. Niles Shore and I voted opposed to application completedness because there was a quorum and 3 votes. The application was voted as complete and will continue forward with a public hearing on December 4th, where we will get some input from the public. And just as a reminder, the public hearing is the only opportunity for the public to come and be heard about this application. The public is not allowed to make comments on anything that is an active application on our agenda. So during public comment, only during the public hearing. So December 4th, if you have anything to say about this, And then, so we had no public comments for the second session. There were some informational items, including the Board of Appeals would like to meet with the planning board about section 7.21 in our land use ordinance, indoor pickleball coming to Berwick this winter, and just a couple of other informational items. And then we adjourned just a little bit after 7:30. So that was 1 hour of meeting condensed down to 5.5 minutes for you.